All right, and we are live. Hey guys.
Hi.
What's up, everyone? This is your host, Stefany Sweet, and you are now tuned into the GrownupIsh Podcast. Welcome, 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 as per the norm. I want to, first of all, welcome these lovely ladies that I'm joined by here, Isis and Damaris. Welcome, ladies. How are you?
Hello.
We're good. Thanks for having us.
Definitely excited to be here.
So a little background for the listeners. These ladies are from the Relatable Couch podcast. They were my cherry poppers. Well, they were one of the first people that I was lucky enough to go onto their podcast and be a co-guest on their podcast. They were gracious enough to invite me, and we had a great time. And so I thought it was only right that I invited you guys over so that you were on my platform and we could do this again. I had such a great time with y'all before.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having us. We're really excited to be here as well.
Yeah.
We have a podcast every Tuesday, just like Steph.
Yeah.
Relatable Couch, where we just talk about stuff that is relatable. So both of us are in our 20s. I still claim being in my 20s.
In your 20s.
I have 6 more months left here, but just two people in our 20s. We have a lot to talk about. We come from similar and different backgrounds. We're both like cousins, sister cousins that kind of grew up together, and we just share experiences that we have both experienced and what we've learned from all of these experiences. So
yeah, it's dope. That's awesome that you guys were able to get together and decide. What made you guys decide to do it together as opposed to with other people or whatnot?
I think it was an idea that Damaris had a long time ago, and she brought it up to me, and I was just like, yeah, that sounds like fun. And then I was living in a different state, and she was still living back home. So our schedules were always all over the place. Mm-hmm. So when she moved here at the beginning of the year, we really started narrowing down on okay, well, now would be a better time, especially once quarantine started happening because we weren't doing anything.
Right.
We were like, well, what do we talk about? What do we even call ourselves? Where do we start? And then it became a project that we started doing primarily for fun. And I mean, we talk a lot of shit. So we figured we might as well let other people hear it. Right. And hopefully they'll find it as entertaining as we do. So,
yeah. Because a lot of the things that happen is when we're editing, I die laughing. I cry, laugh at some of the stuff that we say or talk about or just bring up. So it's been just a really fun project.
Yeah, that's the best way that I think about it. I was like, well, I think I'm funny. I hope you think I'm funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really wanted to bring you guys specifically on to talk about what we're going to be talking about, which we're going to be discussing today is podcast life. We're going to be talking about the podcast life and, how podcasting has really influenced our lives, our personal lives, and how it's affected our relationships, what we thought about podcasting before versus what we think about podcasting now.
Right.
But mainly, how it's changed our lives. That's what we're going to be talking about. And I specifically wanted to get you guys on here to talk about it because I feel like we started around the same time. And we've been podcasting about the same amount of time because I started in May. You guys, I believe, was June. Right? Or May?
No, May.
Our first episode released May 5th.
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo is our first episode.
Okay, yeah. So I remember you guys had said that, and I was like, yeah, they would be awesome because you pretty much, I think, would have the same about the same, at least length of time in terms of experience. But I'm sure you guys have your story to tell, and then I have my experience. One major difference being the fact that I'm a solo podcaster versus you guys, you have a co-host.
Each other.
Yeah, and you have each other to kind of rely on. And how's that dynamic been? How is that relationship? Has it made you guys go stronger together and closer, or has it been trying at times?
Your face is funny. Go ahead.
We have our moments, but we have our moments with this, just like the dynamic that you hear on our show is exactly how we are in real life.
Yeah.
It's like we love each other to death, but we also want to kill each other half the
Right.
time.
Sometimes I'm like, ooh, that's a little testy.
Yes.
Right. But we do luckily work well together so long as you're on the same page.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So things have been going really well. I appreciate that like we have a similar vision for what we wanted the podcast to be. So that made it very easy to be like, to really go in on it and like focus and actually start it, because the hardest part is starting. Because once you like get a flow and you're doing it every week, it's just like, yeah, okay, it's time to record and it's fine. But in the beginning, it was really hard, especially because I am designated tech person.
Was not so much anymore. I've learned, I think.
You've gotten a lot better for sure.
Yeah.
But I was like, I had to figure out the software. We did go and pick out the mics together, but then like hooking that up and like how to make them work at the same time, because we went the slightly cheaper route to start out. We didn't go and get the whole setup with like the mixer box, because I was like, I don't understand. So we're just gonna start here and then eventually like hopefully build up from there.
Yeah, before we go investing so much, like let's
right.
Calm down a little bit. Yeah. So for me, I think the same as her. We've always had the same vision. So when I presented this idea to Isis, she was like, yeah, why not? And it's literally been us figuring it out as we go. I knew nothing about nothing. Literally, I know how to like go on my phone and look at social media, and that's the extent of it. So when I say this past year, I have become a content creator, a producer, a editor, and this is a literal full-time job. This is 80, 60 hours a week. If you want it to like blow and explode, it's a full-time job. And at the beginning of quarantine, or the pandemic, we were in the house together. So for us to not kill each other, we just wanted to do something that's productive. And also we lived apart for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
You moved to Florida. So doing this was also a way for us to rekindle our relationship, because we've always had a great relationship, but it has been in 2 different states, for the last 5 years. And it wasn't until this year that I moved here from Virginia that we kind of had this thing to where every week we kind of in tune with each other, talk to each other, and
on
build
a continuous basis.
That's kind of how it's been. But this is a full-time job.
Oh yeah, for sure it is. Like I can attest to that, because when I initially started, I was like, okay, same, we're in quarantine. I have all this time. Let me go ahead and put it to good use. And prior to this, I had always just been listening to podcasts. I was a consumer of podcasts, loved them. I love the idea that I was able to learn so much through just listening to these conversations. And, it opened up my mind to different aspects of like the world and life that I hadn't even like really pondered and considered. And just, I loved that effect that it had on me. And I always get together with my friends and we have these conversations. So I was like, I really love podcasting. So let me go ahead and try it. Right. Thinking the same thing, I'll figure it out as I go. And as I started first, and it was fun. Like I still enjoy, trying to learn new things and a different aspect of it, trying to tackle that work aspect of it. And this is the most fun part for me, when I sit down and have the conversations and engage with people and talk about whatever we're talking about and like yap in my mouth. This is the fun part.
Yeah.
But that back end part, I didn't realize the extent of the editing and the producing and getting to know the different programs that you have to like download, or systems you have to download to be able to like edit. And I was not aware. And it really can be. And then marketing. Okay. The marketing, it really can take a life of its own and become a real full-time job for sure. So that aspect of it, I was not counting on. That was a surprise to me, how much it took to be able to kind of get to where I was. It took a lot, and yeah, that was a big huge surprise as I'm like, coming on the end of the year. I talked on my last episode about reflection and kind of, setting goals, setting intentions, looking at where I was and where I am and where I want to be. The podcast, came into play, and kind of like just taking inventory about all the different events that have taken place. And like, wow, it's great to see where I was versus where I am, because there's definitely been growth
Oh
and
yeah,
progression, right? And I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed it. It's harder because I'm doing it all by myself.
I
Uh,
agree.
yeah, so it is quite an undertaking, along with other things that I want to like be able to do and venture into, and not to mention my just regular day to day.
Right.
But yeah, like
It's been hard. Like if you think about it, you mentioned earlier social media. Social media is probably what we've been struggling with
The
the most,
yeah,
like genuinely the most. Social media all in itself is once again another full-time job. So it's like you're
right,
doing 4, 5, 6 different hats under one roof. So first of all, I give it to you for being able to do this by yourself. I recorded one solo episode, and it took me a lot of mental preparation, because you are literally talking to yourself on a mic in a room and hoping that what you're saying doesn't sound crazy and you don't sound
right,
like you're just kind of
right.
ad-libbing or just
Or
talking
like
to a
blabbing
wall.
on.
Right.
That's me
So
every time. That's
yeah,
me.
so social feeding off of each other has been easy.
Yeah.
Because we always, when I say we talk a lot of shit, we really do talk a lot of shit. And I did not realize how much shit we talked until we're here now.
This right.
In the famous words of, what is it? Amanda Seals.
Oh, irrelevant. We're here now.
So,
Right. We're here now.
so it's been a whirlwind. Social media, though, it is so hard. We suck at consistent posting. That will change in the next coming weeks, because we're just kind of setting these goals and these intentions of what we want the next year to bring.
Right.
I feel like the first year was primarily, one, us doing a fun project, and two, trying to figure it out.
Right.
But now I think we're both in a place where we've kind of figured out what to do and how to do it. We just have to make time to do it.
The
Right.
thing about social media for me is that I know what it takes. Like,
Mhm.
I know what we have to do. It's just a lot of work, and I don't personally have the time to do it. I have to make the time to do it. And
Yeah.
that's where the discipline and like the determination part comes in. Because if you don't have that and you just nonchalantly post or like do the things to like follow the algorithms that these social platforms have, your stuff is never going to be seen, especially
Right.
because most of the content is not displayed in a time-based format anymore.
Right.
It's based off of interactions, off of how many people save your posts or like your posts or comment and all this stuff, and like I guess just overall popularity.
Yeah.
And they've made it just that much harder to get yourself noticed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it takes
you're
time
paying-
and it takes a lot of research, which is also a pain in the ass.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like you're almost playing like a losing game in a way, unless you start paying money,
Right.
Mhm.
or like actually investing cash into it, which is what they want. So, yeah, I definitely feel you on that. It is like a lot, and the pressure of putting together the content, not just the rollout, but putting together the content, arranging it, making sure that everything is as it should, coming up with, be it segments or flyers to post, and designing that. And I mean, there are different suits that make it easier, like Canva and whatever, but it still like takes a lot of brain power and time and effort. And so the discipline of being consistent is definitely key.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I
Have you
know.
guys been I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I said, I know you mentioned this is the fun part. This literally is the
Right.
fun part. Everything
Right.
after this is literally just background
Work.
Right.
work.
Which
Yeah.
is this is an hour, right?
Right.
And then we spent the whole week, we're going to spend the whole week posting, putting together stuff. This is hours upon hours that we're going to be spending the remainder of the week trying to like push the episode on social media so that people remember like, hey, and try to
watch us, listen, post, comment.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
How, when you guys started, were you always like supported? What did your family or your friends, what did they all say about it?
Well, with family, we were fortunately like received a very supportive audience. I didn't know until Damaris told me the other day that my oldest sister listens to our podcast religiously every week. And I was like, what? I had no idea. I'm like, she knows more about my life than I do, apparently. And then the funniest thing is that I had to explain to my non-English speaking parents, my dad speaks some kind of English, my mom's is very little, what a podcast is. And I was like, yeah, it's like a radio show, but not on the radio. And they're like, what?
What do you mean?
So yeah, so like they were supportive too. Luckily, they've always been supportive in everything that I do, you know, so long as it's not illegal. And that's been like a great recipient. I remember actually when we posted online that like it was coming soon, that we were going to release on such and such date.
Right.
I feel so blessed to like I received a whole bunch of like excited comments and like, oh my God, this is so cool. And I'm just like, is it? I think so. I'm glad you think so. That's awesome. Because you're nervous. Your very first time when you're like letting people know. And even now, me personally, because I'm not Damaris, I still work on
like more outgoing or whatever.
Yeah. I'm still working on and I have a podcast, you know, like just do that on the weekends.
With that,
she squeezes it into every new interaction.
Any moment, the minute, the chance I get, because it's the only way we're gonna grow.
It's true.
Yeah. As far as like support, I think we both received the same amount of support now. But it's funny. I was actually having this conversation with my roommate yesterday. If I look back at when I first went to college, like I went to college for hospitality and tourism management. So that was already like a creative field. I remember my family had zero support for me in going into like this venture or this creative field. And even Isis, when she was going into college initially, she was saying, I want to study art. Like our family would look at her and be like, what? Get something more practical. Same with me.
I think it was mostly my siblings. My parents don't really understand a lot of things like that because, you know, them coming from a third world country, they actually did not even really get to like go to high school.
Right.
So for them, when they moved here and they did X, Y, and Z to make sure that we were able to have a better life.
Yeah.
So on and so forth, they didn't care what I did so long as I went to college. They just wanted me to go to college for me personally. But they, to this day, don't really understand what it is that I do.
Yeah, at all. But
it's okay.
But to see the trajectory of like even 5 and, you know, 6, 10 years ago when I first went to college, it's fun to see that, you know, our family, the same people that were very like, you guys need practical jobs. You guys need to do this. You guys need to follow this linear path, are now 100% on board, 100% in support of what she does. Because God willing, she'll be drawing cartoons for a living, and just in support of our projects and everything that we do on the side. Because in a world, especially this year, in a world where off the beat careers were not necessarily seen or viewed as mainstream, now everything is on the computer. And everything is either entertainment or practical. So either way, as long as you're in front of a computer, you're winning. You're doing something that's worth something now.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to see that.
Yeah, I get that because, you know, they wanted to see something more tangible. That's how, you know, family is. They're like, what is that going to do for you? Are you going to be able to pay your bills while you're doing that? You know, is that like realistic? Come on, you know? And the artsy, creative, you know, almost like unsure, uncertain of what it is that didn't breed like responsibility or doesn't show, doesn't equate to a steady paying job or something. But now, like you said, yeah, things have changed. People are able to make money in so many different ways and creative ways, just with the use of online and the internet, and um yeah, leveraging.
Yeah, not to go directly in this specific direction, but if you look at strippers,
Yeah,
strippers that were in clubs are on
now
OnlyFans
OnlyFans is
now,
lit,
because that is it, and they are not only killing, they are killing. I know at least 3 girls from my hometown that
Yeah.
made $120,000 just OnlyFans.
Wow.
So it's just the times are different. The times have completely changed.
You mean you wouldn't go to a drive-through strip club that I've seen online? I've never experienced it, but I was just like, people really out here, like just drive on through and they stop at said dancer and there's like a railing or something in between. I don't know. I've seen
we need to figure out where this is in Orlando, because
You ready to go? You ready to go fast?
There is one in Orlando.
Some paper.
We should go. What's that one? Rachel's.
Oh, they have great steak apparently. So I keep hearing.
What is it with strip clubs and food? It's like, the wings are good, the steak is good. Like,
so I heard, because I was very confused. I'm like, I don't know if I really want to eat, and like,
right. I wouldn't.
I'm like, that feels weird.
Food. Right.
Right.
Like, oh yes.
But they explained to me that the restaurant is like on a different side, and then the strip club is separate. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So you get dinner and then a show.
Right.
Got it.
Right. And you can segue very easily into the show.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, but times have changed.
Focus, right.
Times have definitely changed.
It's time to drink and turn up.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so I like to see that there has been that drastic shift between, not being supported, and now we have a lot of support, actually.
Yeah, it changed. Well, the thing about it is that if we think all the way back to when we first started college, because it's been more than 5 years for me since I started college, right?
That means it's been like 10 years for me. Jesus.
Yeah,
like over here doing the numbers.
So, she was like, yeah, like 6, whatever. And I'm just like, I could have been a doctor by the time it is what it is. My life has taken me a certain way. But, and, we're 4 years apart. So the fact that you received X amount in the beginning versus the reaction that I received when I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I think I want to do art because I've always loved it, but I was so afraid of the starving artist cliche that, even then, oh God, what year is it? It's 2020. I don't know how many years ago that was. I don't do math. This is why I do art. However many years ago when I started college, even then, like, doing the world that we're living in now was not like something that we ever imagined would happen.
Right.
With, like, connected we are with the internet. Like, there's everything media based, everything content creation based is just thriving.
Yeah.
Tremendously.
Yeah.
Which I think is why it was a perfect time for us to start this
now.
Yeah. I got great support from my friends, from my family. They were like, go for it, do it. Oh, I can totally see you doing that. I'm like, really? Oh, okay. And they were very, very, very supportive, thankfully. And the only thing that I definitely see that it has, that again, the time that it takes to put in work towards a podcast it can be time consuming, right?
Oh yeah.
Especially because we're coming from a place of learning as we go. It's not that we already know what we're doing and we can kind of get in there, take care of it, and move on to the next thing. If you already know, like now that I know things move quicker, I know what to pay attention to specifically. I know, okay, this makes a huge difference. No, this is not a big deal. We can overlook that. It's, and then it also depends on how anal you want to be about your stuff, right?
Right.
So like, yeah, man, before I was like, oh my gosh, paying attention to every single little detail, and everything had to be uber perfect, and just being super anal. Isis, is that you?
Damaris would be like, Isis, your perfectionist is showing. And then she'd take the computer away from me. And I'm like,
even in editing,
sound good.
even in editing, she'd be like, the tweak of his voice is not at this decibel. I'm like, it doesn't matter.
It matters.
And the only reason why I found that out is I've listened to a few other podcasts that aren't necessarily, that are a lot more popular, and obviously more popular because they have more of a social media presence.
Yeah.
But their sound sucks.
Don't say popular, say well known.
Well known, yes, correct. Well known. Their audio sucks. I hear my audio and I'm like, our audio is way better than whatever it is.
Flips hair.
That made me relax. That's what made me like, all right, Steph, chill. You're not, you don't have to be this anal about it. And I know sound is important. That's one of the key factors, you know.
Right.
Sure. Because that's all that they're hearing is your sound, right? So that's going to keep the person, whereas if stuff is interfering, the sound is really bad, that's going to turn somebody off. But, you know, as long as my sound was audible, like a high pitch of a sound, or, you know, at one point I was erasing all the ums and uhs and like, because I used to say that a lot.
I say that a lot too.
When
like looking at you like
it would kill me.
I actually not to put too much of my personal life out there. Sometimes I would be a little inebriated, whether it was a little something or a little tequila, right? So it would translate a lot into like and
yes.
Because
I recorded my first episode and I was saucy, okay, because I needed to get my nerves like down, and I'm like, okay, Stefany, you're recording this. The world it's not live. The world is not listening to this right now at this particular second. So you can always delete this and re-record if you ever need to, right?
Right.
You know this. But for whatever reason, I was still so nervous that first episode. And I'll be honest, the first maybe like 3 episodes, I was a little saucy.
Yeah.
I would have had a shot or two. And
I like her way of saying it
saucy.
better.
I was inebriated.
She's like, we're getting scientific.
We're getting a little up there.
I was drunk, okay? I was coherent, okay, and I was functioning just fine, you know. But I was in my happy space, okay, and I was feeling good.
So funny.
Same.
And
very.
For my friend Belicia, who decided to do the first episode with me, and you know, my sister recorded the second one, and like, you know, for the beginning, the first few episodes, there were people I knew, and it made it a whole lot easier for me to have conversations and just get it out there and record, because I was comfortable with the people that were there. And then later, as I started interviewing some other people that I wasn't too familiar with or I didn't know, it made it okay. It made it easy, right?
Right.
But yeah, like the time factor was also a challenge, just because it would take me away. Like I'd end up, when you were talking about social media, trying to maybe engage with people. So I'm constantly on my phone now trying to see who's on and engage with them, or maybe write a comment on their page and try to search pages that I like to follow and engage with them, and listen to other podcasts so that I can be up to, you know, familiar with what they're talking about, and I can engage with them. And it's just, now you're listening to a whole lot more podcasts. You're online all the time. You are having to, you know, like try to just keep up with what's going on, so you're familiar with what's happening, at least as it relates to your podcast. And it's just, it would take me away from like being present in the moment with my friends or my family. And, you know, I had to like learn to just put the phone down and put it away when I'm with my husband. Like, all right, I'm not going to be on social all the time, you know?
Right.
Or this is a big one. Like, he'll text me something, and I'll be online, maybe looking at some stuff.
Oh no.
And I maybe won't reply until like, the text will come up and I won't reply right away. And maybe I'll forget to reply.
Right.
I'm gonna be like later, I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't reply. And then it's like, but you were online though.
So the difference, see, now that's a misconception, because you were probably online working. It seems like
absolutely.
you.
So it's not like I'm ignoring, but I would say this. He wouldn't say this to me, but
Right.
I would say, I'm saying it to myself. Like, you are online doing something, whatever it might be, but now you just overlooked someone who's important in your life because now you're doing this thing. Whereas before, that wouldn't even be a factor necessarily. You know what I mean? It's just, and that would be me critiquing myself. He's never said anything like that to me. He knows, and thank God he's so understanding and accepting of all that I do, and very supportive, and has like full buy-in in all the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
It's hard, but me myself, I'll just be like, wow, Steph, like, come on, just what's happening here? Like, you have to be more, I had to be more present. And so I'm doing a better job of disassociating from constantly being online, having to respond or having to engage or try to engage anyways, because that's also very difficult, or looking for content and stuff, and just, put it down and then live your life, focus on the things that you want to do. I had this thing where I wanted to post every single day, and I was doing it, and I was posting something every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
That took quite a bit.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So I would like to share a story about that.
Oh, let's get into classy, ratchet, or real. Yes, share a story.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, or you could just share that story, and if you have a classy and ratchet real story that you want to share after.
Okay, got it. So I was actually going to refer to, it's my sister-in-law, I guess your cousin-in-law, whatever. Yeah. So she is an Herbalife distributor. Have you ever heard of Herbalife before?
Yes, I have.
So because of her and my brother, I have used the product. I do like it, but I was like, I want to make money. And it was like totally, I feel like I got bamboozled. And when I say that, I mean that like they came down here to like vacation, and the people above them who like sold the product to them live in Miami, like in Sunny Isles. So they're like, well, we want to go see them. Do you guys want to come with us? It was me and my ex at the time. And we're like, yeah, sure. Why not? We're not doing anything today. We don't talk about him, but they live in the Trump Tower, and like they never advertise. Well, they did at the time. They never advertise that it's the Trump Tower, but it's like, it's really nice. And like these people solely live off doing this, and like they are night and day social media, like everything. And so naturally as they teach their distributors below them how to do the social media in order to also gain more people and attract, so on and so forth. So I eventually started doing that too. Mm-hmm. Girl, it was exhausting.
Yeah.
They made their formula is posting 6 times a day, every day. Yes. And I'm just like, I can't do this. And honestly, it's, in my opinion, that's not a very organic way, because I feel like it's spammy. I run out of things, and also I get busy. Like, I'm a student and I worked at the time.
Yeah.
And then like I would feel guilty for not keeping up with it, because I'm like, I know I should be doing this, but now, because like I'm an artist, right? I'm an animation student. Right. Mm-hmm. I know what it takes to like grow a page organically, especially because the freelance graphic design that I do, it was for social media marketing. Okay. So like I know what it takes, and I know how to grow things organically. It just takes a lot of time and work and dedication. Like we said, it's a full-time job in and of itself. Yeah. And now I find that now that I'm not in it, right? Yeah. I really look at my sister-in-law, and I'm just like, she lives with face glued to the phone all the time, and it's like every 5 minutes, or like you can't do anything with her without, we need a picture, we need a picture, we need to, oh, let me take a
Right.
picture, do it again.
It's
And
content.
I'm
I
like,
get
can we
it.
just hang out?
I get it, but it's not
Like,
for me. Yeah.
yeah, so it's been working for her. She's got almost 30,000 followers, or she does already have 30,000 followers, so great for her. But that's not how I want to run my business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that was it. I couldn't help with what you were saying. Like, you couldn't disassociate, like when to be with family, like when to put the phone down. I think that kind of work ethic really contributes to the whole like, you're constantly working to like the burnout cycle, because you can't like disassociate when your work day ends and when it begins. So you're like messaging people or answering emails at like 1 a.m. when I'm like, I should be sleeping.
Or watching videos, because that's another thing. Sometimes it's not even about the engagement. It's like you become the consumer. It would be one thing if I was going on there just to simply post and be out of there, right? Or utilizing these tools where it posts to all my social medias and that's it. That's really what I need to utilize and start focusing on, is just getting these tools that will allow me to just post once and it distributes to all social medias. Because when you're in there, like when I'm on Instagram, I all of a sudden, instead of becoming the content creator, I become the consumer because I'm scrolling through.
Right.
And that's where now I've spent 30 minutes scrolling instead of that post that I was supposed to be setting up and arranging and getting like out of there. It's annoying, and we're gonna do something about that in 2020.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right, for sure.
Right now in 2020, we're gonna get that together. That's one of my things I want to just like get set up, is where I can just post out off of just one single post. What has been you guys' like biggest challenge so far, you can say? Like,
I think for me has been, as I said previously, the social media specifically. I'll look at my, like, our analytics. I'm a statistics math person. I'm not like a algebraic type of, but statistics, I like to see them. That way I know where I can improve, or what can I like do, or what's working, what's not working. Social media has been the hardest thing. And I know I reiterated this earlier, but a lot of our numbers that are in streams don't match the 50, 60 people that follow us on social media. So it's hard for us to get the people that are listening, because if these are organic, streams, and there's, 300, 400, 500 of them, where are these people? So I can engage with them. So a lot of the things that we've been doing is, one, I know for the next following weeks, I want to set up a schedule so I can routinely post. Part of it is, since we started at, when we were at home all the time, and now she's in an intensive, course, and I'm at work 40 hours a week, it's become easier to get away from it. Thankfully, we haven't been too off, the beaten path too bad. We have been pretty consistent, with the exception of like maybe 1 or 2 weeks where we hadn't been. So I think that's the biggest stumbling block that we have, just as a unit and separately, because if I'm not on it, or if she's not on me, it just doesn't get done. Like, it's unfortunate, but we haven't posted something in a week or two. And that's just primarily, it doesn't mean that we haven't been dropping episodes. We've been dropping episodes every week. It's just that exactly. I set up the time to edit and drop. I don't set up the time to post and engage.
Right.
And
follow
that
up
has
and
been
keep up with the conversation somehow, some way.
Exactly. That has been the hardest things that I have found.
I do feel personally, and I've voiced this to Damaris independently before, a little guilty in the fact that, when we started, I was in school, but it wasn't like, super crazy. And I eventually, because of COVID, I did get furloughed, and then I decided to walk away from that job because I decided it wasn't for me anymore when they did ask me to come back. And so we had the time in the beginning, and we have the time to dedicate and whatnot. And since school has begun again, since I'm officially in, like what she said, the kind of intense course workload, I have not personally been on top of like, reaching out to people and like doing, the only reason we found you is because of her. So, like, I'm very grateful for the time and work that she's put into it, because I'm over here like, okay, I'm in class 6 hours a day, 4 days a week. And then I'm working 20 plus hours on my assignments outside of that. So like I'm over here just trying to live and
Yeah.
keep up at the same time.
Yeah.
So I give you big props for doing what you do by
yourself. Yeah.
Because I could not do it without her.
Yeah. And don't let her say all of our graphics, everything that's graphic is all her. I can't draw stick shift like a stick figure to save my life. So
yeah, you play off of each other's strengths, which is great.
Exactly. So it's the social media has been the biggest thing, and
for both of us.
Exactly. Us having two now full-time jobs, that has made it a little bit more challenging.
Yeah,
I think that's nothing that time management won't fix.
Yeah.
So in the following months, because we do have like a plan for like to drop merch and stuff, to design stuff like that, and to just expand, to have more guests on. We do intend on setting up a schedule for both of us in the time coming. Unfortunately, she's still in school, and she's going to be in school for the next year or so. But in 2 years down the line, everything that I've done, when she comes back, it's going to be right in,
Where
we'll
right.
play off of her strengths. We'll still be able to use her. So it's something that's monetary. And I guess it is a blessed that we're family. So everything we do, we're keeping it here. I'm not trying to give anyone money for anything if I don't have to.
Right.
So everything that we do, it's playing off of each other's strengths or weaknesses. So,
right.
And I think the mindset that we had when we started this, to kind of like see what happens. But now that we're here, we already see what's happening. So now we just have to kind of ricochet off of what we've,
just
our foundation right now.
Make the little tweaks and continue, which is what I, have been looking into myself. Like when I started this, I literally started podcasting saying, I like listening to podcasts. I enjoy the conversations. I enjoy having conversations myself. Let me give it a go. And it's something that, I love, right?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't really put much thought into the structure. I mean, I did put thought, but not enough. I didn't go deep dive into it. It's kind of like, oh, this is the idea I have. Boom, let's do it. Oh, I researched a few platforms where I can just publish my podcast. Okay, I'm gonna go with this company. Because there's Anchor, there's Buzzsprout, there's all these other ones, right? So it was kind of like, oh, I found something. I'm gonna just look. Okay, I do my minimal due diligence, and then I would make a decision and go. And literally, I've been just like taking action, and here we are, right?
Right.
But when it comes to social media, marketing, and getting the word out there, and doing features, and even collaborations or giveaways, or just different ways of engagement, I've kind of had to, I didn't really put much thought into it. It was just like as I go type thing, right? And then I would find myself there like, oh yeah, let me think about this and let me look at. So niches has been one of them, and I think it plays a huge part in finding your tribe, and that's my whole purpose of all of this. Is like, I would find my tribe as we went along, as the conversations happened and people listened to me. And if they rock with me, they rock with me. If they don't rock with me, they don't rock with me, right? It is what it is.
Right.
So that's kind of how I thought about it. But at the same time, I get where, when you need to kind of narrow it down, you need to have a plan. You need to know what you're doing, where you're going, what your objectives are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it sets the right intention, and you can start from the beginning doing that, moving towards that goal, towards that course. And not having a niche, not having a specific niche to focus on, I think has been the biggest. When I had this niche conversation with my friend who does marketing, and she kind of was like, well, who's your target audience, Stefany? who are you talking to? And I'm like, I'm talking to everybody. What do you mean? I'll talk to you. I'm talking to everybody. She's like, yeah,
Right.
you're talking to everybody. And that's the thing. So it's like you're casting this big, span of like, fishing net, and 1 minute you'll be talking about this, 1 minute you'll be talking about that, and this person may not like these other topics that you're going to talk about. But if you consistently talk about one single thing, just you're going to attract that same kind of person, right? Or the same people that are interested in that, whatever that single topic or niche is. And I'm like, oh, that was such like a
light bulb.
aha. Aha, that's the thing.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes perfect sense.
It makes absolute sense. And so because of that, I've decided that I'm going to be changing things around with the GrownupIsh Podcast. I'm going to do a whole different rollout for it, but here we are, guys. Now we're going to be switching things up, and we're going to niche this down. I'm going to niche the podcast down a bit more and kind of just structure it, better in a way where it's more sensible and there's a clear, direct message, right? As to who I'm talking to, who I'm targeting, and
right. Something that I have learned, and I think I learned it from my job initially. And sorry, you kind of threw me off.
Sorry.
I learned it from my job initially. We have this thing at my job called the Orlando Linda, and that is the ideal patient, the ideal person as to who is going to buy glasses from this store. Where I work, it's a Black-owned business. So, the Orlando Linda, she's 35. She's Black. She has a career. She's a career woman. She, buys glasses every 1 to 2 years. Sometimes it's contacts. It's like this, person, like this tangible person that is
profile of this person.
Exactly, to what you have had to say. I think she and I've never actually discussed this with her.
I was
ever.
Like, who's Linda?
But with our podcast in the back,
Linda, Linda.
Orlando Linda is a 35-year-old in Orlando,
and she likes to buy glasses and contacts. Right. Okay,
that is the intention. So with this, it's I don't necessarily have a person, and we should. But in the back of my mind, every time I'm speaking to a specific person. I have her in my brain because maybe it's not me specifically, but it's someone like me, someone younger, because we target a younger-ish audience. But our person is
the way when we decided the niche, whatever. People fight about how you pronounce it all the time. Anyways,
or GIF and GIF.
Shut up. Right. So oh God, no, I remember what I was going to say. Hold on. Oh, no, I do. Okay. So the graphic that we were going to target is, yes, 20 somethings. It's basically people, young adults who are still trying to figure it out, because we're at that sweet spot where Damaris is in the process of making what she wants out of her life while still holding down a regular 9 to 5, because that's her bread and butter, right? I am still in school pretending to be an adult.
Yeah.
Figuring stuff out.
You guys were my demographic, initially the same. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I guess with me, so correction, a bit of, I guess, clarity. I thought about all these things, and I knew that I wanted to talk what I wanted to talk about, or who I wanted to engage with, which was anyone who wanted to really who was living their life and just being a grown-up, trying to be an adult and still figuring it out and being grown-up-ish, right? Mm-hmm. And the struggles of adulthood and things that might come up, and we'll talk about it, be it, you trying to just be a savvy investor and being an entrepreneur, or, you know, the relationships that you're having as an adult now versus when you were younger. You know, just all these topics that would encompass adulthood, right? Getting to know yourself sexually, all of that, right? But because it spanned from all these different, and like I wasn't making the right connection into the grown-upish aspect of it. I think it got lost in my translation of the conversation, right? And I think about, when I think about it now, is making it more concrete and having, be it segments or being a specific saying, whatever it is that will kind of like, you know, make the connection from episode to episode to episode, where it's a continuous ongoing theme that I think, you know, will make it more tangible. Like,
I agree.
Yeah. But I've enjoyed podcasting so far. I really want to continue doing it. I think it's such a great outlet for me. I've been able to meet people that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to have met in any other way necessarily, you know, unless it was like by chance, you know. And before we go any further, we touched on getting into the classy, wretched, or real.
Oh, yes.
Like,
I don't want to take away because Damaris had a story planned.
Yes.
So I was
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like 20 minutes ago.
I'm sorry.
This is what
we
happened.
went off on a tangent ourselves.
This is what happens.
That's how the conversation
Oh,
goes.
this is how we speak. This
This
is the
how
format
this
of
is
our
our format of our
podcast.
podcast.
It's like, oh yeah, so what I was gonna say 10 minutes ago was
This is it. I'm saying it now, right? So yeah, let's go ahead and get into classy, wretched, or real, guys. So I'll let you guys go first, since it seems, you know, you already have a story lined up.
Yes. So our story isn't too you know, dramatic, but you did say a story that in relation to, you know, podcasting and all that great stuff. So originally, Relatable Couch was actually a 3-man band.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay.
3-man band. And because we had started talking about, you know, podcasting, what we were going to do around February-ish, like at the beginning of, you know, the three of us being at home. He was our old roommate, being at home and, you know, doing what we got to do. We talked about it all the time. And, you know, when she was transitioning between moving, you know, to her boyfriend's house and living with me, we would still talk about it. So he and I would have these extensive conversations about what our thoughts were, you know, what our plans were, all that great stuff. He was involved in the name. He was involved in, you know, our music production. He was involved in some of our topics. He was very, very, very involved in the beginning.
Okay.
Up until I think it was episode 1. We recorded 1.
She's like, oh no.
We recorded 1 and 2 episodes with this person.
I'm trying to keep my comments to myself.
Yeah, and at the beginning, like, he was all about it until one day we were talking about making a TikTok, and TikTok itself is just another full-time job all in itself, because Instagram is nothing. TikTok is you actually have to dance now.
Right.
So
Not anymore. TikTok is no longer about dancing, so I hear.
Well, let us hope. So it'll be a little easier for us to catch up and whatever it is that they're doing. But we were on this TikTok, so we were planning. We were planning this TikTok, how we were gonna like do it, stand up, and what he was gonna do and what she was gonna say, and then all of a sudden he goes,
I don't think I can do this.
just
Literally. And we're like, excuse me?
He's like, this is too much. He's like, we need to have a conversation. He's like, I
think we recorded 2 episodes actually.
You're right, but it was like within like a week or 2.
Yeah,
that we had recorded.
We recorded them like back to back because we were getting ready. We wanted the time to prep and edit so that we could drop the first one.
And have a launch date and all that great stuff. But yeah, just out of the blue, he's like, I can't do this.
Oh my gosh.
We were like, what? Like our faces sunk. Like we had posted like pictures already. We had come up with a concept.
I remember now. So yeah, no, we had posted like pictures of the 3 of us, like Relatable Couch Podcast coming to you soon, so on and so forth. And we had like thankfully it wasn't so like far in. Like if we had done 5 episodes and released already and then he dropped off, I think I would have been more upset.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that we had a conversation.
Yes.
We addressed it with him. Are you in? Like this and that. And we were like, we got to do all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I want to be involved. And then when he drops that bomb on us, he's like, I thought I was going to be like a guest type of thing. Like, you know, whenever it would be chill, like whenever, like from time to time. And then
not like, oh, you are part of this. You have a stake in this. You have to contribute and work and do certain things.
See, with the exception of Damaris, Isis doesn't really do. Oh, and my boyfriend and my dog. Isis doesn't really do mad. So Damaris did all the talking because I had nothing to say. I was literally sitting there, silent as could be, and she was just like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like,
"Yeah, no." And that's the thing with our personalities. Our personalities are very opposite. She's calm, but when she bites, she bites. I'm all bark. All bark. If I bite, it's because I'm really upset, but I'm all bark. Nothing really gets to me personally. I will just act it all out in my emotion. That's my person. I'm out here. If she's pissed, it's because you better run away as quick as possible because she will hurt you.
No.
Right. So that's where we were at that day specifically. But it is a blessing in disguise because it did happen within our first episode. So you can actually hear it in our first 2 episodes where we had to figure out a new intro because in our original intro, it was like, it's the 3 of us and blah, 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 and great stuff. Thankfully, like I said, he has assigned, we did get him to sign a contract, which releases the music for free. Because a relationship after that went downhill. I'm sorry for this foul language that's going to come out of my mouth, but he can suck my dick, really suck it. And
let's preface that things were still cool.
Things were still cool for a while. Yeah.
And then it wasn't until I fully moved out that things started, they started butting heads.
Yeah, it turned for the worse.
It turned for the worse for her, apparently. And I'm just...
That started off. I'm gonna call that real and ratchet. Real and ratchet because it's a real life story, okay? And it got ratchet because you guys had a conversation with him, and then he still was kind of like, yeah, and then he went sideways on y'all. And
it was in that moment I realized that he was a flaky person, and that's not to hold. So for me, it's not to hold it against him personally. It just really that just is how he is, and I'm like, whatever. At the end of the day, it's our relationship is not do or die.
Yeah.
So I'm just I just won't ask him for things, and that's what my mindset was going forward after that.
Right. And you got to move forward in a positive way. It looks like you it's a blessing in disguise.
This makes more sense. So
I think the less cooks in the kitchen, the better, right? And 2 is plenty. 2 is plenty. And it works. You guys obviously, have a good relationship. I mean, you have your own kind of beautiful relationship.
Right.
And you're making it work. So, power goes to you all.
Thank you. Later on though, with in between us trying to scramble what to figure out because we were supposed to release, I think, in 2 weeks.
Yeah. And
we recorded the trailer of just the 2 of us because we hadn't done that with him yet, I don't think. And it just for the first time, it just really flowed. And we were both just sitting there once we were done and we're like, that was so easy. Whereas with him, we didn't realize how our dynamic on the air didn't work until it didn't have to work anymore.
Right.
Because we were sort of we made sure not to say certain things or a certain way as to not offend him because he's a little macho man. And I also feel that you were far less nervous once it was just you and me recording.
Right.
So yeah, it worked out for the best.
It did work out for the best. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yes.
So I
Your
don't
turn.
really have classy wretched or real story for this particular um episode. Because my podcast experience has been kind of solo, so I don't really have like any major stories or anything like kind of weird because it's just been me.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just been me. So I really don't have anything. I just, like I said, I mean, I kind of spoke about it, which is my whole trying to switch things up for the GrownupIsh podcast, which I'll roll that out in the coming year. But I will use this moment to mention the key word for this particular episode, and the key word is going to be niche or niche.
However you say
However you
it.
want to say it. But that's going to be the keyword for this particular episode. And that leads me to my last question, or one of my last questions, for you guys in terms of censorship. Like, I find myself holding back, trying to see how much I want to give of myself to the podcast and to the listeners and the audience, right? And how much I can say versus how much I should not say. And there's things that I will absolutely not mention or bring up. But now when you were talking, I'm like, oh, this is that was a good question, because you kind of like mentioned you were censoring yourself a little bit with your previous ex co-host. But now without him, just in general with your episodes, do you find yourselves censoring, watching what you say? How do you feel about that in relation to work, even, or just general life? Like, what are there topics that you won't talk about? So let's get into that.
You know first?
Well, okay, sure. So I definitely, let me just put it out there that I'm, with the exception of like the sailor cursing, I'm not really a foul mouth person in general. But
Nice.
like,
Wish I could
I don't openly like say grotesque things, but I think that's just because my personality, like on a typical day-to-day basis, is generally more like soft and reserved. I'll have my moments, but still. But I do find that there are certain topics that I will like stray away from. Like, I don't think that I will ever be comfortable with talking openly about like my personal sex life on the air. And I know that there are podcasts that do that, which is totally fine, but only because with the type of work that I want to do, if one day I want to work for a big industry and they find my podcast, or like they'll see that I have a podcast online and they'll go listen to it, I would hate for that to be the reason why I don't get hired, because I become the face of, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But it's really just like, so that was sort of an extreme thing, but I'm sure there are other like topics and stuff that I'm just like, I don't really feel like that's safe for work. And I don't really want to talk about that. So
Right.
there are like other things too, but that was just the first like extreme thing that came to my brain. And I'm like, I don't think I want to do that.
Yeah.
Just like for that reason, because, I've come this far and I'm like, I just want a job.
Fair,
Right.
fair. And that's something that we've had conversations about. She's like, I think she's okay with talking about like sex just generally, just
Right.
not for what happens in her bedroom, which I 100% respect. Everybody has those boundaries. For me, I'm more of an open book. My job is actually fully aware that I do this, because when I was interviewing with them, I had this intention. I was like, I'm going to start this podcast. So just so you're aware, I'm not saying that I'm going to, bash or shame, because I still teeter around what I can and cannot say about what's going on specifically with them.
Yeah.
But since the environment that I do work in is a very relaxed environment, I don't feel censored in that aspect. The more censorship I feel in is the biggest major thing that has happened to me recently happened 3 years ago. I broke up with an ex. So a lot of the stuff or a lot of the things that I talk about or a lot of the experiences that I've had were with him because I spent 10 years of my life with him. Yeah. So it's more of trying to say things in a way where it comes off respectfully versus just naming names and just bashing people. Because at the end of the day, we're all adults. We learn from situations. We hold each other accountable for, whatever. But that's my biggest censorship is just in the stories that I do share. I need to be sure that I'm not like, I don't be negative or I'm not rude because that's never my intention. I'm kind of over it at this point, but it's just never my intention. It is. And I will say, and I still stand by it. The moment we start a Patreon and the moment that, people pay to get on and listen to me speak, that's when to me, all the censorships are off the table. Because if you're listening to what I'm saying, you had to pay to listen to what I'm saying. So if you are listening to what I'm saying, then it's that is your prerogative, like your, what's the word I'm looking for? Prerogative. Yeah. It's not because I'm out here just, going crazy. This isn't a specific format, platform, whatever. So that's when the censorship can go. Besides that, I'm an open.
Right. At the end of the day, this is your platform, right? Or in this case, this is my platform. I can choose to have whatever I want on here and say whatever I want on here. To a very certain degree, but for the most part, I'm censoring myself.
Right.
I'm the one who can dictate what to say versus what not to say. And anybody who listens and tunes in can either listen in or they can just shut me off, like turn me off, do not follow me, X me out of your life, pretend I don't exist, poof, I disappear. So if you're on here, it's because you obviously are intrigued or entertained by something.
Right.
And my prerogative is to just be my most authentic self without offending anyone unnecessarily, or, at least that's my intention, is just to put my own truth out there.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it's your truth. So whoever is offended is offended. Yeah, but your truth is your truth. As long as you're not out here, saying blatant lies.
Right. Or being blatantly disrespectful or anything.
Right.
Yeah. The only censorship I felt is like, about my family, certain things and maybe, work to a certain degree. I would like never mention who I'm working for and say anything in relation to that. But besides that, like, I'll talk about anything to the point that I feel comfortable, and then I won't pass my comfort level. That's why I always say to my guests, like, this is an open platform. Be as explicit or as reserved as you want to be, just it's all based on your comfort level. Don't ever feel like you need to do something that you don't feel comfortable doing. And then that's that,
Yeah.
But my family, they don't, as long as I'm not like out here embarrassing them in some way.
Right.
At least that's never the intention. I might embarrass a person or two. I don't know.
Yeah, it's never the intention.
Purposely. Great. Well, thank you so much, ladies. I learned a lot about you both, a little bit more about you both today. It was really interesting talking to y'all and to have listened to you guys' podcast experience. And what can we look forward to seeing in the coming year?
As far as us, we are definitely dropping a lot more episodes and a lot more online presence. So definitely look out for that. We're working on some few TikTok ideas, working on a few like Instagram stuff, and definitely looking to like do a website and all that great stuff. All the background stuff that I guess we should have done in the beginning, all of that is coming somewhere around our January to our 1 year anniversary. Around that's when that's dropping.
Don't stress the should haves and the could haves.
Don't stress the should haves and the could haves. So once again, relevant.
I like that.
If it should have, then it would have.
Very true. Yeah. So that's what we're doing next year. So definitely look out for a lot more of us. online and in streaming format as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Split can kill me. I'll draw the things that I meant to for this.
Yes. If someone doesn't kill her, she'll draw.
Great.
She'll
You
draw.
can start, you can start your animation. So go ahead and drop your handle so that the listeners can get to you guys.
So you can follow us
Relatable
on
Couch.
Instagram and TikTok at relatable_couch. And we do also have our email where we receive stories, requests for advice, things that you want us to share or talk about at relatablecouchpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep. And as Stephanie's favorite thing to say is, do not forget to rate and subscribe. Rate,
Right.
We're everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
Google
Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts, anywhere where podcasts are heard, we are there. iHeartRadio, I found out how to do that recently,
Yeah.
which is cool. Yeah, we're on iHeartRadio too
That's fun. I didn't know that.
yeah. So yeah,
Awesome.
so definitely stay tuned. We're on here every Tuesday, just like Stefany. So I say you wake up in the morning. If you're up early, listen to Stefany, get all your
Relatable
grown-upish advice. And then at nighttime, once you're off of work, listen to Relatable Couch and, have a drink with us. Listen to all the walls that we have hit and what we have learned from all those walls.
Sounds awesome. I love that. Yes, guys, as you already know, you can find me on IG, the GrownupIsh Podcast, the GrownupIsh on Twitter. The GrownupIsh Pod is the website. Review, subscribe, follow, share with your mother, your brother, your sister, everybody under the sun. You already know. And yeah, that's that for this episode, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you both.
Thank you for having us,
guys, for Isis and Damaris.
Bye.
The Relatable Couch, and I hope we can do this soon in 2021 or something. We can do like a little reunion.
I know you and I had spoke about doing a little meet and greet thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
We gotta get on that.
Definitely.
But thank you, ladies. I appreciate y'all. And until next time, I'm gonna go ahead and close us out.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.